Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and guess who's in the studio with me? Somebody that we just can't seem to get enough of. And Mr. Bob, how are you, bud?
Hey,
good to see you.
Good to be here, as usual. Very glad to be here.
I thought you were an MIA or something.
Yeah, it's been back and forth between here and New York. And,
okay, yeah.
But it's so good to be here when I'm here.
Well, listen, we got a lot to talk about today, and I want to jump right into it. Did you watch any of the hearings with Secretary of State John Kerry and, of course, Secretary of Defense Hagel in front of the Senate yesterday?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I did get to hear Obama's press conference this morning when he said that he did not draw the red line. But what he was doing is a rhetorical flourish, because he said the whole world drew a red line.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, it was a little backpedaling there.
All right, so there's a lot going on with this issue. It doesn't appear we have any allies with us. France now has said, we're going to wait and see. In fact, we may wait until see what Congress does, but now there's a good chance France is going to pull out. You got the Arab nations saying no. It's a good likelihood the UN's going to say no. Of course, Russia's saying no. The UK's pulled out, and they pulled out severely. They said no. What's going on? What's your opinion? What's going on here?
Well, when you mention Russia, of course, Russia is a longtime ally of Syria, and of course, glad to stick its finger in our eye anytime it can.
Yeah.
It's a very serious situation, and primarily, in my view, serious because we have a commander-in-chief who's incompetent. And it's a sobering moment for younger voters who may have voted for Barack Obama, because it's easy to forget in the hubbub of an election that you're voting for a commander-in-chief. This person you're voting for is going to be responsible for the security of the United States. And we're now paying a price for that. Do you remember back in the 90s with Bill Clinton during Bosnia? I remember the conservative position was, well, he's kind of messed this up, but we got to stand by our man because it's the credibility of the United States is on the line.
Right.
Here we are again, Democrat president, incompetent commander-in-chief, no military background, no respect for the military.
Right.
Obama shares that with Clinton. And here we are again in the position of having to stand by our man to protect the integrity of the United States, or at least that's, you know, a very fair argument. And none of us trust him, or certainly I don't.
You know what's interesting about that? That seems to be the part of the argument the Secretary of State Kerry is making, that the credibility of the United States and the credibility of the president's at stake here. We have to go in. Now, I believe that Kerry gave an emotional defense yesterday, but I don't think he gave a compelling debate yesterday.
I heard you and Steve talking about that.
I know that they're going into closed session today, which classified information is going to be shared. But you got the Pope coming out saying no. You got Boehner saying he's probably on board now. You got McCain saying, well, yeah, but we need to control this. We need to know what the mission is. You've got Graham going, yeah, but. And then you have, which I think, you know, you take Boehner, McCain, and Graham. Personally, my opinion, they're a sellout to what's going on here. I'm really disappointed in what's happening. And the other question has to be asked, has too much time lapsed? I mean, Syria knows everything we're thinking. The whole world knows everything we're thinking. What's going to be the element of surprise? And then, yesterday, as they were talking to the various people on the committee, and you had the two secretaries there and the general didn't know what the mission was.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to go in and break things and kill people, but we're not sure what that's going to accomplish and what we're going to do.
And what plan B is if there's a counterattack, if Iran, you know, shoots missiles at Israel or anything like that. Well, what you're describing very well, Perry, is a weak president. You're describing the mess you get in when you have a weak president. And we encountered the same thing with Bill Clinton, and it's a teachable moment for us. And I am against, look, I wish I had access to the information they're going to get today. There is a lot of question, as you've been reporting, as to who really used the chemical weapons. And that's a really core question. President Obama seems convinced that it was the Syrian regime. But there seems to be some counter questions. And it's a funny thing. Not that long ago, we all remember Democrats, liberals, were not trusting the CIA for its information with Iraq. And here they are, you know, telling us to trust them.
All right. I don't know if our control room, but I've just got a news flash. McCain is pulling his support.
Ooh,
this just happened as we're talking here now, so I don't know if we can bring that up on the screen here. But Senator McCain pulls his support for the Syria plan. Now, what does this do to the deal? I mean,
boy,
let's back this up a little bit. It appears to me, Bob, I want to give this before we get the break. With all due respect, it doesn't appear we can trust this administration principally. Everything they do is political. So why is the president doing this? To me, it provides the perfect political storm. He can get all the attention off of IRS. He can get all the attention off of Benghazi. He can force the Republicans into a box. If they say no, then he can say innocent people dying because of Republicans. If they say yes and it goes in there and blows up and they say, well, the Republicans okayed this. Okay, which completely moves the narrative away from all the issues that seem to be tagging them and biting them in the rear right now. But now it seems to be melting down. What if the president gets a thumbs down like Cameron did?
Yeah, you know, look, one predictable profile of an incompetent leader is that he or she will blame other people. You know, I mean, we're dealing with, the sad thing is we're dealing with two major problems with him. One you just touched on when you used the word principle. We're dealing with incompetence, as I said before. We're also dealing with ideology. And the ideology of the left is everything for power. They do not accept a God, an America under God. You know, the pledge is being sued again in Massachusetts. You know, they don't accept that, so they don't serve a higher right except their own ideology, which changes continually. So there's a reason we don't trust, especially we conservatives don't trust Barack Obama. And so now we have a situation where the nation is you know, about to engage in a questionable act that may have many dangerous ramifications, and we don't trust our leader. Anyone who has military experience knows what it's like to be on the battlefield with a commander, with a leader that they don't, an officer that they don't trust. It's horrendous, and that's the situation we've got. And you're right, one of the reasons we don't trust Barack Obama is because we've seen the left be political in everything it did, including subverting the Iraq War. Right. Excuse me, you know, that's a hot button for me. Yeah. You know, I have with me, we don't have time now, but I have an editorial written in the Boston Globe about Bill Clinton in the year 2000, castigating Bill Clinton for doing nothing about Saddam Hussein. That's a liberal paper. It's owned by the New York Times, or was. It is castigating Clinton for doing nothing about Saddam. Bush gets in, he does something, all of a sudden he's a villain. You cannot trust the left, and it's a tragic situation that we have because we're in a situation now where we need to trust our president, and we don't.
Okay. Isn't there some kind of irony, if not hypocrisy, that we got the leading, if not the most historical anti-war person in the history of the United States, John Kerry, as Secretary of State, promoting a military strike when his whole claim to fame has been anti-military and anti-war?
Yeah, and throwing his medals over the White House fence and criticizing the military. You know, younger people, of course, don't remember these things, but for those of us who are baby boomers, these are emblazoned in our minds. And yeah, here we are. Look, the problem is the left doesn't believe anything. They don't, there's no rock, it's built on sand. The Democratic Party is built on sand. There's no rock foundation. So you literally don't know who they're going to be today. You know, who were they yesterday? Who are they today?
Well,
those are the key questions.
That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. All right, so we're in a mess.
Yeah, I mean, we are, and we are.
Now, is Syria really a security threat to the United States? Why don't we just, you know, I thought Sarah Palin, look, every once in a while she drops.
I love Sarah Palin.
She drops a golden one every once in a while. Yeah. But she said over the weekend, let Allah sort it out. Let's just stay out. You got Muslim fighting Muslim. Let's let Allah sort it out.
Right. And both of them enemies. You know, really, they're
probably. You have three. You have the Assad, you got the rebels, and you got Al Qaeda, and you got the Muslim Brotherhood. I guess you got, I don't know, Hezbollah. I don't know how many factions you got there.
Right. It's a mess. But there is. Let me speak to the other side for the moment, just for clarity's sake. There is a point that the president is making about the fact that chemical weapons have been used. That is a red line.
Right.
You don't want the world to descend into legitimizing chemical warfare. People who use chemicals for many decades now, it has not been accepted in the international scene that a country use chemical weapons. So if they in fact did use chemical weapons, and if it's absolutely clear that they did, and it's not a ruse of the radical Muslims who now, you guys were talking about it, possibly have used the weapons against their own people. Yeah. And by the way, that's absolutely credible. Because in their view, we're just going to martyr those people and they're going to go to heaven. We're doing it for the cause.
Yeah.
It's within their ideology to gas their own people to win the war. Because anything to win
that's what Rush Limbaugh came out with yesterday. Dr. Jerome Corsi was saying the rebels did this, and that in order to bring the world down on Assad, which strengthened them to take out Al-Qaeda. And so you're thinking, as strange as that is, it does fit within their ideology.
Yeah, I didn't read the article that Rush was referring to, but Rush is an extremely credible person. So the point is, in a situation like this, if there is a possibility that the
Hezbollah?
No, the Syrian regime, I've forgotten the name of the leader, Assad.
Yeah.
If there's a possibility that he didn't use them, then we have to be very careful what we're doing, because we're putting our foot in a mess.
Okay. Well, Bob Justice in the house. As you can tell, he's wound up. And he has a lot more to share with us, and so stick around. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and in the studio today with my good buddy Bob Justa. We're talking about some of the key things going on. This, as we were talking just a few moments ago, has broken the news, Bob, and maybe you want to comment it, but apparently McCain pulls the support from the Syria plan. Senator McCain, the president's strongest ally for a strike in Syria, deals, the administration has said, by opposing the Senate's proposal to use force. I mean, this is big. This is a big turnaround on the issue.
No, I know. I thought you made a good comment when we were off air that it's very possible that McCain has gotten some information, in terms of
he got some intel there.
Intel, and if there, it's what we were saying before. If there's confusion, if there's any confusion as to who used the weapons, then we have a different situation. I wanted to, by the way, also Alan West, who even though only served one term, still is a significant figure in the conservative movement, and of course with military background, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He said he would vote no on this. Yesterday. So, there's a big question about what to do here.
If there's going to be congressional meltdown, I mean, look, McCain would have been the strongest support on the right for the president to have, and he's now pulling back. What kind of pressure does this put on Boehner? Is Boehner a lone duck out there, and does he really think that the Tea Parties that won election in 2010 are going to be with him on this issue?
Oh, I tell you, it is a mess, but I go back to the core of it. We elected an incompetent leader. I remember vividly talking to a friend of mine in Los Angeles who was a very intelligent person who was working for Barack Obama in 2008, old friend, childhood friend, and I remember telling him, why are you voting for a person with no real experience?
Yeah.
We elected a person with no experience.
Twice.
Yeah, twice. Thank you very much. and let this be a teachable moment for people listening who voted for him. Let this be a teachable moment. A president of the United States is a significant figure on the world scene, is commander-in-chief, and picks Supreme Court justices.
Right.
We need to pick sober men and women to do that, who are experienced and under pressure, have a worldview that is consistent and know how to lead. And this is not who he is.
All right. Now, again, there is a political side of this, and I can't help but think that's the motive of the president, that this creates a perfect storm for him to get other things off the headlines. But somebody made the comment, and I thought it was pretty significant. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a president that would be equally concerned about the Americans killed in Benghazi as much as the citizens have been killed in Syria?
Exactly right. And nothing was done, to our knowledge, about the 4 Americans died in Benghazi, including an ambassador. We haven't lost an ambassador since the 1970s, I think.
Yeah.
And what happened? First of all, they abused the truth in order to win the election. I think it's pretty clear now they abused the truth.
Right.
And that's enough to tell you. But then nothing was really done. And so people, that's what I'm saying. When you follow an inconsistent leader who doesn't know, who has the double whammy of incompetence, meaning he doesn't really know how to lead, and he has a very loosey-goosey ideology that is applied, at convenience, which is what the left is all about. We are where we are, Now,
I want to go to Drudge and see if he's reporting this too, because Drudge is just basically has the president up. I didn't set a red line. Can you?
Yeah, that's a little misleading because he did say it, but the full line was, "I didn't set a red line. The whole world did." It's not my fault.
No, wait a minute.
It's not my fault.
Isn't that baloney 101?
Yeah, it is baloney 101, which is why Drudge put that headline up. But that's why I just want people to know that's what he said in the press conference.
Well, this is the big headline at the moment. McCain is pulling his support from the Syria plan of the Senate, so that's huge. So that tells me there's some intel out there that is brewing. All right, so we got the Benghazi mess. Here we are coming up on 1 year on Benghazi. 9/11 will be 1 year from Benghazi. Absolutely no justice and no resolve for those families that lost their loved ones, let alone the United States having peace with this issue. And the IRS scans, of course, Congress comes back into session next week, and all the IRS hearings. Are we seeing a president in meltdown?
Well, if we are, we have to remember, even if we radically disagree with where he's leading the country and his ideology and all of that, we have to remember when a president of the United States is in meltdown, not only is America in danger, the whole world is.
Right.
I question the phrase, "we're the world's only superpower." That can be a very, anyone reading Sun Tzu on war, be careful when your enemies praise your strength and pretend to be weak, is what I'm saying. The conflict for us is that he is still the president of the United States. And it is not good for us to be weak. It is not good for him to melt down. Right. Our enemies do what they did with Jimmy Carter, and this guy's worse than Jimmy Carter.
Right.
I'm telling you, I have regretted that I voted for Jimmy Carter in '76 for my whole life. I've literally made it a platform of apology to this country, for years and years on the air. And I feel so sorry for young people who voted for Barack Obama, because they are going to regret it for the rest of their life as they mature and come to understand what a disaster he is. And who knows if we'll survive it? Luckily the Lord's on the throne, so we press forward. But yeah, he may well be in meltdown. Now here's the problem too I see in terms of the vote. If there is clear, let's say the McCain thing is a game changer, because I don't think he would have done that if there wasn't intel suggesting what you say, is that we're not sure it was the Assad regime. But there's also the element of, if Congress stands with the president on using the military in Syria, we're empowering the president. And as conservatives, our big problem right now is that President Obama is too powerful and is abusing his power, in our view, to hurt this country, which is what Mark Levin's book, The Liberty Amendments, is all about, to try to stop the movement of the secular statist movement. And Barack Obama symbolizes that. So that's another problem for us. Do we want to give this guy more power by voting with him?
Well, it's a power issue, but where's the principle and why we're going in there? We don't know what the mission is. We don't know what we want to accomplish. We don't know how we're going to get out. We don't know the backlash it may have on Israel. Isn't it interesting that Netanyahu's totally silenced here? We haven't gone to him. We haven't heard a peep out of him.
Right.
And you would think that we could rely on the intelligence of coming out of Israel more than we're getting out of the White House at the moment. So, with all due respect, it appears this whole mess is a political heyday for the president to blame the Republicans.
Yeah, and I think that's what, unfortunately, that's a key element of what's going on. But you said a key word when you said about using that we don't have a mission. I just want to further, unpack that, because that is such an important thing. Ambassador Bolton said that a cruise missile attack is not a strategy.
No,
it's a fit of pique. You're trying to make a point, but you're not acting to an end. Okay, a strategy would be regime change.
Well, the general said that yesterday when he was asked the question. He said, "I don't know."
He bluntly just said, "They said, what is the mission here?"
He basically said, "I can't answer that question," and so I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. You're the guy leading the charge, and you don't know what the mission is other than going. In the meantime, have we waited too long? Assad moves all of his stuff around. He's hiding it within citizens. So we're going to go out and hit places that are basically empty to make a statement on a war that we have no business being a part of, in a country that is not a security threat to the United States.
Yeah, and the president's already said it would be a limited attack, so our enemy knows what it'll blow over. It's like him putting troops in Afghanistan, but at the same time announcing withdrawal date. It means you're not serious about winning. Right. You're not serious. He's not a serious person.
You're a former liberal, reformed. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
My son.
I need the forgiveness. Okay. Thank you, Perry. Thank you.
But part of that is, this doesn't pass the smell test when you got the whole left wanting to go to war, when the whole left has been against war. What's wrong with this picture?
Yeah, well, you know, it goes back to conversations you and I have had for years. Nothing the left does passes the smell test. Right. Because the left doesn't operate on a basis of seeking a higher right. They don't operate that way. They operate on targets of opportunity based on one thing that, and I'm speaking for the left now, if we have power, that's good. That's it. Because we're good, and those judgmental, you know, Christian superstitious weirdos, they're bad. Okay. So if we have power, that's good. So whatever we do to get power is good.
Okay. We're going to run out of time. I
just summed up the left.
You did. Look, folks, that was a golden moment on the show. You may want to replay this and send it to your friends. All right. This book has shaken America. Mark Levin has come out with the Liberty Amendments. And I am hearing some big-name people give 2 thumbs up on this book.
Really? Mark Levin on his show the other day quoted Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh sent him an email and said, you can use this quote. Yeah. He said, you are going to go down in history for this book.
All right, so what's this about? We're suggesting...
Well, let me say, the bottom line of this book is and by the way, you can YouTube these things. Mark Levin on Hannity's show did a panel discussion, which was really wonderful. So just, you know, YouTube it. But the bottom line of it is that in the Constitution, it allows for 2 ways to amend the Constitution. One way has been used historically every time, and that is through the Congress. Right. Congress votes for an amendment, and then the states ratify. Okay. Right. But there is another way that the founders put into the Constitution, and that is that the states can have an amendment proposing convention, not a constitutional convention, but an amendment proposal convention, which would then have to be ratified by the states. So in other words, the states say to Congress, you're not responsible, we don't trust you, you are undermining the Constitution, we're going to gather together, we're going to propose a number of amendments to reclaim the Constitution for the American people. And Congress can't do anything about it. What happens is the states send emissaries or ambassadors to this convention. Yeah. The convention comes up with, let's say, 5 amendments or 10 amendments. And then the amendments go back to the states, and 3/4 of the states have to ratify those amendments. So it's still very hard to do. But he has proposed this to. If
he just begins that route, he's created the national debate in the right direction.
Exactly right. And you know what he's done that I just love? Yeah. It makes me wish I could run for state office. Because it is the state legislatures that make that decision. It empowers the states to say to the ever-encroaching, ever-enlarging federal government, thus far and no further, we are going to push back. And it's empowering, and that's why Rush Limbaugh's excited, Sean Hannity's excited, and many other people.
All right, going to have you back next week to see where this goes.
Well, it'll have to be on the phone. I'll be in New York.
We'll get you on the phone.
All right.
Are you going to be on Hannity?
Well, I hope so. You never know.
I think you should. I'll call Hannity and tell him to put you on.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Perry. Good to see you.
We'll be right back.